Ladies and gentlemen, this RedGamingTech.com video, we're going to be going over everything that we currently know about the next generation Xbox. This is just ahead of its complete and official announcement tomorrow, which will be 6 PM UK time. I'm very curious to see just how many of the rumours were right and how many were completely off. So first thing I think we should do is discuss the launch, the pricing and so forth. The launch will most likely be in early November, according to current rumours anyway, and we're going to be seeing two price points, one at $499 and another at $299. So if you pay upfront with $499, that's it, you don't have any fixed subscription or anything. However, if you pay the $299, you get a fixed 2 years Xbox Live Gold subscription that of course you must pay monthly. If you go with the subscription model, it appears that it's going to be either $10 or $15 a month. So obviously, eventually you're going to be paying between slightly and a little bit more. So it depends on which one ends up being right. We're not sure about the name yet either. It could possibly just be called Xbox. There are rumours that say that. There are also rumours that it could be called Xbox Infinity. Other rumours which could be called Xbox Fusion. And even Xbox 8. Now, Xbox 8 and Xbox Infinity are somewhat interchangeable because obviously if you flip 8 and you kind of topple it onto its side, it's basically the Infinity logo. You get that? So Xbox Windows 8 is supposedly the operating system that's at the heart of the next generation Xbox. Of course, we're also going to be seeing the next generation of Kinect technology as well, with various improvements to that. So let's move on to the actual specifications of the machine. These have been very much up in the air. There have been a couple of rumors of them. Originally, it was supposedly even going to have a derivative of a Radeon 7000 series card in Crossfire. However, apparently this is no longer going to be the case. In fact, the machine is very reminiscent of Sony's PlayStation 4. However, supposedly, according to the various rumors, it's going to be somewhat inferior to the PlayStation 4 in a couple of key areas. Supposedly, the CPU is going to be x86 with 8 CPU cores running at, of course, 1.6 GHz. It has its own 32 KB of level 1 instruction and data cache. And just like the PS4's CPU, each of the modules of 4 cores. So, in other words, 2 sets of 4 has 2 megabytes of level 2 cache, giving you 4 megabytes total. Each of the cores supposedly handles 1 hardware thread. Also, now, these are very similar to the PS4 specifications. Not really that much difference there. However, supposedly the biggest difference between this and the PS4 is the GPU and the RAM. The GPU is going to be DirectX 11.1, and that's 800 MHz, exactly the same as the PS4. However, there's only 18 compute units, also known as shader cores. That's compared to the 18... I'm sorry, I just realized I said 18 twice. There's 12 shader cores compared to the 18 of the PS4. That's quite a difference. Now, these shader cores are supposedly compute units, so they can actually do compute functionality, for example, physics and so on as well. However, just if that's true or not, it's unknown. Obviously, there could be other improvements to the cores. It's unbeknownst. We'll talk about one of the possible scenarios, one of the possible rumors in just a moment as well. However, the PS4 will be putting out about 1.8 teraflops of compute power versus around 1.2, which is obviously fairly significant. But once again, just how much of a difference that makes is unbeknownst to us at this, particular time. Storage and memory, however, are going to be two very different things compared to the PS4. It's going a completely different route. It's going to be using 8 GB of DDR3 RAM, which gives you about 68 GB per second. As you guys are most likely aware, if you're regular viewers, it also contains 32 megabytes of fast embedded SRAM. This is ESRAM. That gives you 102 gigabytes per second. Now, the important thing to note here is this means that from the GPU's perspective, at least, that means you get about 170 gigabytes per second. Now, this embedded RAM is also connected to the CPU too, so in other words, it can shunt data around pretty quickly. But obviously, 32 megabytes is nowhere near the rather large bucket of 8 gigabytes. So in short, certain frequently accessed small portions of code will be crucial to be kept on this fast embedded RAM. I've already been hearing rumors of some developers murmuring discontent over this prospect, mostly because that means possible optimizations. Obviously, this is still very early, and once again, these specifications are not confirmed. We will find out about this tomorrow. However, if it is true, it will be quite a turnabout, because in theory at least, it could mean that the PS4 is going to be the easier of the two consoles, and Xbox 720 is going to be the harder of the two consoles to program for. This is quite a turnabout from the previous generation, where the Xbox 360 was a little bit easier. Having said that, there are one or two exceptions to that. Accordingly, Sega said that a couple of their titles, I believe Virtua Fighter and possibly another one, were apparently a little bit easier to convert to the PS3 because supposedly their hardware, their arcade boards anyway, use NVIDIA parts, but just how true that is, I'm not 100% certain. So there you have it. An undetermined hard drive size is present, and that is always connected into the device. We're not sure how big it is, or whether there's going to be different models of it, how easy it's going to be to upgrade. You get the picture by now, and of course we're going to be seeing a 50 gigabyte Blu-ray drive. So in other words, the discs can be up to 50 gigabytes in size, and we have a 6-speed drive too. Now, I think it's time to get onto the slightly uglier rumours, the ones that have been stalking the system, waiting in the shadows for it to sleep, and then kind of screaming at it in the night and shaking it awake, those type of rumours. Yes, you guessed it, they're always online, and no, you cannot play second-hand games, that's bad. At the start, the rumours were consistent, they were bad, they were pretty strongly worded, pretty much that you couldn't play any title, any single-player title, it didn't matter what type of game it was, without being connected to the internet. Then, slowly over time, those rumours become more and more and more relaxed. The later rumours have basically stated that yes, the system can play games on that single-player if you, well, are not connected to the internet, but you most likely will want to be connected to the internet. Similarly, it also appears that used games are not going to be blocked, so it's very difficult to know. These latest rumours were sparked by an apparently internal Microsoft memo, and it basically states, Durango is designed to deliver the future of entertainment while engineered to be tolerant of today's internet. There are a number of scenarios that users expect to work without internet connection, and those should just work, regardless of their current connection status. These include, but are not limited to, playing a Blu-ray disc, watching live TV, and yes, playing a single-player game. Obviously, that could be taken multiple different ways. Maybe they originally decided maybe we should make it so that you can't play online without being online, and then they kind of went back on that, they backtracked, or possibly they never actually had the intention and somehow the rumours got started. It's really difficult. Obviously this will be cleared up in the next couple of days, to say the least. I'm really hoping that the online rumours are completely false and rubbish, however. But what this does not do is destroy the notion of second-hand/used games. Now, this is actually the major primary reason that Microsoft did not want a system that could just be played offline. In other words, they wanted the online system to be able to act as a filtering mechanism specifically for, well, pirate games, because obviously the Xbox 360 has an absolute huge piracy problem, more so even than the PS3. But also, the used game market is becoming pretty big as well, and obviously a lot of developers have not wanted that, because obviously they feel that, well, they want every copy of the game sold to be worth money to them. So it's unknown right now. Now, obviously there is a possibility that the games would actually just be installed and ran directly from the hard drive. So in other words, the disc becomes useless. Now, I don't literally mean that you'd have to throw it against the wall and that's it, because obviously, let's say a hard drive is finite. So even if you've got a 1 terabyte hard drive, if the install is, say, 50 gigabytes, you've only got a certain amount of installs on the hard drive. But what it could mean is that it basically registers your system. I'm still not particularly a big fan of that for a couple of reasons. One of the primary ones for that is, well, multiple systems in the same house, unless maybe you can have up to 2 systems maybe on the same IP address. However, of course, then you have little problems like dynamic IP addresses. So I guess we'll have to just wait on that. Now, there is one specific hardware functionality I didn't really mention, and that would be an input for HDMI. This supposedly is used to connect your console to a cable television set-top box. And also, of course, there are multiple rumors of, well, Microsoft wanted to revive shows like Heroes. Obviously, this would get them into the rather lucrative online streaming market, which, of course, right now in the UK alone has several major players, including Blinkbox, Netflix, Love Film, of course, do it. Now TV, there's a couple of others as well, I'm pretty sure I'm missing. However, obviously, there's a lot of exclusive programming going on, and everyone is vying for your £5 or £10 or dollars or whatever you happen to be paying per month. With this, supposedly, it will also act as a pass-through, so you can actually overlay various features and UI on top of your existing television channels. It would also be kind of cool, I suppose, in theory, because you could also do stuff like picture-in-picture if you wanted to game on, say, one small portion of the screen. I'm unsure just how useful this would be, as well. I suppose it depends what they're actually overlaying, I'll be honest. In the UK, for example, the 2 major television providers for cable, at least, or satellite, that would be Sky and Virgin. Well, you can pretty much record live TV and you can get information on what you're watching and the actors within it and schedule stuff to record whenever you want and various other bits and pieces. I'm pretty sure it'd be the same in the United States as I've mentioned before. So I suppose it really depends on what they're adding to the mix here. Microsoft have also been very teasing with various hints of exclusives. We're not exactly sure what those exclusives are. They could be anything from Electronic Arts games, well, obviously apparently they're solidifying a relationship there, to pieces of DLC, or maybe exclusive indie developers or whatever. Their indie developer relationships have been somewhat rocky. Some developers have gone as far as to say they're crap with them. Others have said that they've been absolutely wonderful and best friends. It's very hard to know just how much of it is a conflict of personality or what, because obviously we're only hearing from one side of things. In other words, it's not Microsoft commenting as well. It's only the indie developer. However, supposedly, I haven't heard a bad word so far. I have no doubt in 6 months to 12 months' time, there probably will be some voice of discontent from Sony's camp, but so far, no indie developer or larger developer has actually complained about Sony in terms of how they are treating developers. This is very different from Microsoft and Nintendo. Now, Nintendo have had a few mentions that they've not been helpful. This is especially true of DLC, incidentally. Microsoft, it seems that, well, they haven't liked certain aspects of the release process of development of indie games. However, once again, apparently Microsoft are trying to streamline and vastly improve this process. So I think this brings us up to a few final points. First of all, the backwards compatibility. Now, supposedly, the CPU inside the next generation Xbox is not capable of, well, backwards compatibility. Now, there have been some murmurs that indeed you're going to be seeing the Xbox 360 SoC. That would be the system on chip, or for those of you who are not quite sure what that is basically CPU and GPU, along with a few other key components of the system, basically embedded into the actual hardware of the Xbox. Now, it's kind of interesting because these rumors have been floating about. However, the very early leaks showed that this was not the case. In other words, this was absent. However, some have said that it was a later edition. Others have said it was a secret and they just kind of added it later. It's really unknown. Some have even gone as far as to say that you could actually use the Xbox 360 SoC for certain things, such as, for example, texture streaming. I'm not really sure what to say about this one. It'll be cleared up in just about a day. I would personally take it with a pinch of salt until we actually get further clarifications. It is somewhat possible, however, because despite the fact that you are looking at x86/64 compared to, say, PowerPC, which of course the previous generation Xbox, the Xbox 360 CPU actually was, there is the possibility that you could get converters which basically make the x86/64 code work on PowerPC or vice versa. If you want more information on that, you can check out the video on the channel, but I'm not going to go too much more into that on this particular video. Once again, that is just a rumor and there is by no means any confirmation. Okay, so what about games? Well, we have titles such as Watch Dogs and Assassin's Creed Black Flag, which of course are going to be released on other systems. You also got Bungie's Destiny. Interestingly, in a rather large turnabout, Destiny is of course made by Bungie, however Sony themselves have apparently snagged some exclusive content. We're not exactly sure what particular content they've grabbed, but regardless, they have grabbed some. Also, we're going to be seeing titles like Thief and Witcher, and apparently a third Mafia game as well. Now, regards to Electronic Arts, they're apparently a huge supporter of Microsoft, and obviously we're going to be getting titles like Battlefield 4, which supposedly runs absolutely flawlessly on the Microsoft machine. Supposedly as well, we're going to be getting a new game, which is going to be called Titan. This is from Respawn and is an online sci-fi shooter type of affair that puts you against Titan mechs of some description or another. We're not exactly sure what's going to be happening here. However, apparently we will be getting some level of exclusivity for Xbox. Just what level of exclusivity is unbeknownst to us right now. Obviously, EA are very much multi-format based anyway, so whether it's going to be that, Microsoft gets, say, exclusive DLC, or maybe they get, say, 2 months early, or whether they get, say, exclusive online modes, or whatever, it's unknown at this point. Of course, we'll also get titles like Forza, which supposedly has super lifelike, and I do read a quote there, graphics. We also have new titles such as Crytek, apparently developing a Kinect exclusive action title by the name of Rise. That would be R-Y-S-E. However, originally it was an Xbox 360 title, and then they kind of pushed it forward onto the Xbox 720. Remedy, who are known, of course, as Alan Wake's developers, were hiring in March. What that will be is unknown to us. Whether it could be another Alan Wake or a new IP, who the heck knows at this particular point. So yeah, I have a feeling that the show itself is going to be extremely interesting. Obviously, I will be covering it extensively, and as I said previously, the streaming will start at 6 PM tomorrow. That would, of course, be UK time. No doubt Microsoft are going to roll out the red carpet. That will be celebrities, random gimmicks. Of course, we're most likely going to be seeing demonstrations of various bits and bobs, most likely games, possibly even non-game services. Yes, I remember watching the original Xbox 360 one. In fact, I actually subscribed to 1 or 2 different websites and paid money to watch this darn thing. And I remember Jay Allard, I'm pretty sure that's his name, someone's going to comment it's something else, but whatever, actually gave demonstrations of the various technologies and said about 720p and so on, and the bottom line is he was very, very enthralling to watch. In other words, Microsoft demonstrations are generally pretty well. Obviously, they have had a few interesting demonstrations, such as the famous BSOD. That would be the blue screen of death on the Windows event. But aside from that, most of them go absolutely flawlessly. And they have the money and the power there to really put on an absolutely fantastic show. Just what we're going to be seeing, just who we're going to be looking at, and the various titles. I have a feeling as well that it's going to completely go crazy all the way into E3. Microsoft right now have a fairly interesting certain level of expectation upon them, because in a way, if they actually announce that, okay, it's going to block use games, people are going to be pissed, but at the same time, I think people have digested it enough now, so where they wouldn't actually be really angry. I think they would have just been like, oh, that's a major disappointment. On the other hand, it certainly wouldn't be very good from the perspective of people who are on the fence between Sony and between Sony and Microsoft. Once again, of course, Sony themselves are not going to be resting on their laurels, and no doubt they're going to be showing absolute killer lineup at E3 themselves. So right now, Microsoft want to draw a little bit of blood, because obviously Sony battered everyone on the head with the PlayStation 4 Express, and definitely it came down to being extremely impressive at the time. So anyway, I think that just about does it for our whirlwind tour of the Xbox, whatever it ends up being called. Who knows, perhaps all of these recent reports for the last 12 months or whatever it has been now have been absolutely wrong. For all we know, it could be an absolutely completely different beast. It could have completely different specifications, and they could have just leaked these series of documents to throw everyone off. On the other hand, it could have been 100% accurate. One thing is for sure, it will be an absolutely fantastic show, and I can only hope you guys will be around to view it with me. Anyway, I would encourage you to check out the links in the description. This will take you to RGT's website, where of course we'll be covering things substantially in the next couple of days. Of course, the Facebook as well, where I'll be most likely giving random thoughts and screaming like a schoolgirl as I look at the various IP and various other bits and bobs that is announced, and so on. So anyway, take care of yourselves, and bye for now.